What is up, my aesthetic boys? It's Fresh, back with another video. Now, today we have a storytime episode of PettyRevenge, which is not a subreddit that I've covered a ton recently, but happens to be one of my personal favorites. Don't be a dick at a haunted house. So, there is this really popular haunted house where I live. We'll call it Super Haunts. I finally got to work at Super Haunts one year, and I loved every single minute of it. It's the best thing for a super dramatic person like me. Now, there is one huge rule about Super Haunts and basically any haunted house. Don't touch the actors and don't touch stuff. Super Haunts goes all out. We have animatronics, puppets, floors that move, etc. It's the works. And some of the stuff we have, well, it costs money, and we also don't want it damaged. But of course, people are dumbasses. One night, I wasn't really in the mood for people messing with me or with stuff, so I scared a few people, but one guy was just kinda asking to be scared. Big time. Now, one of the best ways to scare people is to pretend you're not real. I did that all the time. The outfit I wore made it look like I was an old maid wearing a bonnet so people couldn't see my face if I looked down. Now, I heard this guy coming. He kept saying things weren't scary, and I glanced up to see him messing with the stuff in my room. He was just being really annoying, loud, and making fun of people being scared. Time to scare him. I slowly go behind him. He doesn't notice me. His friends do, but I can tell they're tired of him. They didn't say anything, just waited for me to do my thing. I inhaled and let out a blood-curdling scream. I swear, if this guy could have, I think he would have jumped out of his skin. He shouted, jumped up, and then fell on the floor. He looked up at me with this terrified look, and I just stared at him. Now, instead of getting up and walking, he just crawls. I've had people do this before, it was nothing new. But I don't stop. I just grin at him and start to laugh. That is what I was best at, the creepy laugh. I'd start off soft, then get more loud and manic. Soon, I'm cackling like mad, and this guy is crawling to get to the other room. His friends were dying of laughter. And things only got worse for him because the room next to mine, it's the chainsaw room. So once he crawled away from me, I heard him screaming again as one of my coworkers rushed at him with the toy chainsaw. You know, it's always fun to try to have a conversation with whatever scare actors are in the area, that's totally fine, but when you start making fun of people, kind of ruining the experience for them, this guy definitely deserved what he got. I wish I had been there to see him crawling into a room only to be confronted by a dude with a chainsaw. I'm quite sure that his friends never let him live that day down. Rude old woman thinks she can insult me behind my back. A few years back, I worked at a garden center in a town with a pretty large population of Italian immigrants. I don't look particularly Italian myself, but I am, and my Italian is passable. I was mainly a cashier, and to be honest, I really loved doing it. The clientele was significantly nicer than at the grocery store I previously worked at, and I enjoyed having the occasional chat about plants with people. Because this was a mainly Italian area, I did deal with a lot of older Italian people whose English wasn't very good. Most of the time, they would make an effort to speak English, I would do my best in Italian, and everything would work out well. One day, however, I was at the till cashing out an elderly woman and her adult daughter. The woman was trying to haggle with me about the prices, obviously not something I can change as a cashier, and generally complaining about things that are far beyond my control. I was polite and courteous, and eventually the old woman gave up, realizing she wouldn't get any freebies from me. Then the tirade began. To her daughter, who seemed mortified and kept telling her to stop in hushed tones, she began insulting me in Italian. This went on throughout the entirety of the transaction, and I pretended to be oblivious to it, even though on the inside I was fuming. Finally, the woman pays, while telling her daughter she thought I was going to shortchange her, takes her bags, and as I hand her the receipt, I tell her in a cheerful tone in Italian, "Have a great day." The old woman looked absolutely horrified and ran out of the store as quickly as she could. Her daughter laughed and gave me a big smile as she left. I saw the old lady a few more times after that, and every other time I saw her, she was always very polite. Honestly, disappointed in the lack of Italian hands. 3 out of 10. My 9-year-old's petty revenge. Today, I got a call from the school my 9-year-old attends asking to please come to the school because my daughter was in trouble for vandalizing another child's property. This surprised me because my daughter is a bit of a goody two-shoes and never gets in trouble, so I dropped what I was doing and swung by the school to find my daughter sitting in the principal's office, grinning ear to ear. I was ushered in to take a seat. The principal immediately launched into a tirade about how my daughter had deliberately broken another girl's necklace and how unacceptable it was. Once he was finished, I turned to my daughter to hear her side of the story. Last year, my daughter saved up her pocket money to buy best friend necklaces for her and this girl. I ordered them from wish.com for her. This year, the friendship went belly up when I discovered this girl was trying to extort her friends, including my daughter, into buying her expensive items on a kid's game with threats, backstabbing my daughter, and threatening anyone who dared play with her at lunch, so she was completely isolated. My daughter cut off contact and has been rebuilding her friendship circle, and all was going well until this little girl started repeatedly demanding that my daughter give her the other half of the friendship necklace so she could give it to someone else. The fact we were the ones that bought the necklaces to begin with was apparently a minor, irrelevant detail. My 18-year-old niece and nephew are very protective of their young cousins and were quite upset for her, so they decided to offer her the opportunity for therapeutic destruction. Last weekend, they got out their tools and helped my daughter shatter the charm into 7 or 8 pieces with a hammer, some pliers, and had a great time. My daughter put the pieces of the charm in her jewelry box as a reminder of what fake friends can do to you. Anyway, apparently this girl kept demanding the necklace every day, hassling her, so my daughter hatched a plan. She gathered up the pieces into a little bag, took them to school today to empty the bag in front of the girl, and told her she was welcome to the necklace as long as she likes jigsaw puzzles, but she'll probably need some glue. Apparently the girl went red and stormed off to the teacher to say that my daughter had destroyed her necklace and my daughter was sent to the office. I couldn't keep a straight face and burst out laughing. You could see the vein in the principal's forehead pop out as he looked at me laughing. I pulled out my phone, showed him my purchase history to confirm that we bought the necklaces, and my daughter is perfectly within her rights to destroy her own property if she so wishes. He finally dismissed us, and my daughter skipped back to class laughing hysterically. My niece and nephew are quite proud and planning to take my daughter out for ice cream this weekend to celebrate her standing up for herself. This is how you bring a kid up right. A mother with a good sense of morals, family members who love and care about you. This girl's definitely going places in life, especially when she can cook up a revenge as petty as destroying her own property to get back at someone else. Don't tip all week and repeatedly insult me? Have fun trying to leave. I used to work as a valet at a hotel near the downtown strip of a large tourist city. It is a tipped position, and as such, I was making only $5 an hour. The only reason it was that high was because I was the shift supervisor. Before the promotion, it was the standard $2.13 an hour. One week, there was 2 rather trashy ladies who stayed at the property. They were there about 5 days in total, I believe. They had us valet their dump of an SUV. Self-parking was a thing there, and cheaper than having us park it. They would use the valet staff, who also doubled as the bellman, for almost everything, repeatedly insulting us all the time. They shop for groceries at the Piggly Wiggly and have us take their groceries to their room. It was an extended stay property with a kitchenette and cabinets, put them all away, and then not tip. The whole time we'd hear how horrible the place was. It wasn't. How terrible we were at our jobs, again, also untrue, and about how we're probably all just loser musicians unable to make it. Partially true, but still insulting nonetheless. They'd utilize our free shuttle service to the downtown bar strip and complain the whole time about how we weren't a 24-hour service, about how long it would take to get a cab back to the hotel. They literally line up by the bars all night, and it was maybe a $10 ride. After 5 nights of this crap, the whole valet staff was rather fed up. We don't expect monumental tips from guests, just $2 to $3 here or there for parking their vehicles, handling their luggage, and taking them to go binge drinking. Not once did these ladies tip. We'd have some guests who wouldn't tip their entire stay, but then give one large one at the end of their stay to cover it all. Not these people. I brought their vehicle up on the morning they were to check out, loaded their luggage for them, and handed over their keys. They then decided to eat breakfast and scoff at me as they walked inside. 20 minutes later, they still had not come out to leave. We had limited space on the drive and a lot of guests checking out. Cue pettiness. The next 4 vehicles I brought up, I made sure to box theirs in to keep it from leaving and hand off the keys as quickly as possible before telling guests to go enjoy their breakfast. We'd usually keep the keys just in case we needed the extra space right up until the guests left. Sure enough, while still boxed in, my very trashy guests come out to leave, proceed to yell at me for boxing their vehicle in. All I would say is, "I'm sorry ma'am, those guests already have their keys and we've been a little short on space this morning. Lot of guests checking out today. I'm so sorry." Just to be clear for anyone out there who's confused, if they're providing a service for you, you should expect to pay them. If you don't pay them, and on top of that insist on insulting what they're doing and where you are, you probably won't be receiving good service. ETF fee for Comcast at home. Sweet revenge at work. I had Comcast 100 megabit at home, and we have multiple location, multi-gig fiber at work. Our monthly bill for Comcast at work is about $13,000, home cost $60 a month. Comcast has been my only option for over 5 years at home. In that time, they have made almost no infrastructure upgrades, no speed bumps, no price cuts. Recently, AT&T Fiber rolled out in my neighborhood, and I can get 3 times the speed down and 60 times up 300 for the same price as Comcast, $60 a month. But I had 3 months left on a 1-year contract. Comcast wouldn't let me out without a $60 early termination fee, despite 5 years of perfect payments at home. I know, I signed a contract, but seriously, it costs them nothing to let you out and only builds goodwill. Your bank or credit card company will reverse any overdraft or late fees if you're a good customer with the hopes of keeping you happy and willing to come back. About 2 months later, our work contracts came up for renewal and I said we had other plans. The rep asked, "Why?" I said, "It would be better to talk about it in person with the regional manager." As our account was so large, they came in to discuss and try to save the deal. I told them if they treat their home customers like trash, then those same customers are going to remember that for business decisions. They tried to make all kinds of excuses and promised to reverse my home ETF. Screw them and their BS regional monopolies. Even if they didn't know the $60 ETF fee would lose them $500,000 of business revenue, they should treat customers better. Stop trying to raise rates constantly, hide fees, and generally be trash at life. At the end of our rather short meeting, I could barely get up to shake their hand goodbye with my raging justice boner. Man, the phrase raging justice boner really gives me a raging justice boner. Take my block? Have fun with a dead phone. My brother has recently come home from college just to stay for a couple weeks and sort some things out. While this is great and all, I've realized our relationship is a lot better when we don't live in the same house. He's only 3 years older than me, so we bicker quite a lot, with him thinking he's superior and much more mature than I am. That he should get what he wants because he was born first, yada yada yada. He's not always an asshole about it, just more annoying, but today he really pissed me off. Cue Wednesday morning. I woke up to my phone only on 30%. Confused, I looked at the outlet and someone had taken my charging block. My parents don't really use their phones that much and often forget to charge them, so I knew they wouldn't care enough to come into my room and steal it. So the next suspect? My brother. I went into his room to see his phone plugged in with my block. I told him to give it back and he shrugged and said he brought it from school. Yeah, BS. I went and complained to my mother, who just shrugged and said to get over it and get a new one. Now, I know it's not that big of a deal, but he went into my room and then had the audacity to lie to me. I reluctantly got another block while my brother gave me his stupid, smug little grin. That afternoon, he wanted to go hang out with his friends. So my first plan of action? Getting my block back. Oh, I got it all right. Along with every other block and his charging cord in the entire house. I put them in one of my boots and shoved it into the back of the closet. Then plugged in my phone in an outlet that couldn't be seen in plain view. He gets home, phone almost dead, frantically looking for the block. Tell him I don't know what he's talking about and maybe he should go buy a new one. His phone dies and my mom tells me he can buy a new one tomorrow. That night, it floods. Bad. Can't leave the house. He's stuck with a dead phone, for 4 days. Don't take my block. Honestly, I'm just as concerned as the blasé approach that their mother took in this situation. I mean, he literally stole something from her, and the mother's response was, you can go buy a new one. I mean, this really belongs in r/entitled siblings, if that happens to be a thing. Thank you to everyone who watched this video. Be sure to subscribe for more daily Reddit content. Drop a like if you liked the video, and I will see you all tomorrow.